The Solomon Islands Campaign, Guadalcanal. Following the strategic successes of the United States in the battles of the Coral Sea, May 7 to 8, 1942, and battles of the Midway, June 4 to 7, 1942, the Japanese Imperial Navy was no longer capable of large offensive campaigns, allowing the Allies to launch their own offensive in the Pacific. The Japanese Imperial Navy controlled islands around the western Pacific Ocean following the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Japan's purpose was to build a defensive buffer against attacks from the U.S. and its allies, ensuring Japan's dominance over East Asia and the Southwest Pacific. The Japanese Imperial Navy was no longer capable of significant offensive campaigns following the U.S. strategic successes at the battles of the Coral Sea and Midway, allowing the Allies to launch their own assault in the Pacific. America launched its first major amphibious landing of World War II on Guadalcanal in August 1942. Employing sophisticated landing boats produced by Higgins Industries in New Orleans. The U.S. thwarted Japanese efforts to interrupt supply routes to Australia and New Zealand by seizing a critical airport facility on the island. The invasion triggered a violent conflict that included 7 major naval battles, several clashes ashore, and nearly continuous air combat. For 6 months, U.S. Marines fought to keep the island secure. They eventually won, and the Allies made the first critical step toward forcing the Japanese back into the Pacific theater. The conflicts on the morning of August 7, 1942, American soldiers made their first landings on the Solomon Islands of Guadalcanal, Tulagi, and Florida. The U.S. Marines cleared Tulagi and Florida by August 9 after some fierce fighting. The main forces on Guadalcanal encountered little resistance on their way inland to take the Lunga Point Airport, which was quickly renamed Henderson Field after Loy Henderson, an aviator killed at the Battle of Midway. However, Japanese naval aircraft attacked transport and escort ships almost immediately, and Japanese reinforcements arrived in the region. The naval battle of Savo Island was the first of several fatal naval conflicts that followed. The battle for Guadalcanal, its key airstrip, and the seas surrounding it lasted months, with both sides losing men, ships, and planes, and neither side being able to push the other from the island. During the first amphibious invasion in the Pacific, the U.S. committed numerous mistakes, including not having enough resources on the beaches to deploy men and equipment inland. Transport and supply across the Pacific posed enormous logistical hurdles. Difficult jungle terrain, inhospitable weather, a lack of infrastructure, and an opponent willing to fight to the death offered the U.S. a taste of what was to come throughout the Pacific War. Every time the U.S. appeared to be on the verge of victory, the Japanese would replenish Guadalcanal at night and be ready for further action the next day. Japanese forces gathered in October 1942, determined to accomplish a decisive victory. Meanwhile, the Marines were getting more reinforcements, including soldiers from the United States Army. To keep the Japanese off balance, the Americans fortified their defenses at Henderson Field and fired furious jabs. When the Japanese 17th Army launched an attack on the airfield perimeter on October 23, 1942, striking at several sites over 4 days, persistent fighting by U.S. Marines and infantry repulsed the attacks. The American losses were severe, but the Japanese losses were catastrophic. In the fall of 1942, the war at sea heated up as well. On October 26, U.S. and Japanese naval forces battled off the coast of the Santa Cruz Islands. Japan won a tactical success by destroying the carrier Hornet, but at high cost in planes and competent airmen. Then, from November 12 to 15, in the frenzied naval Battle of Guadalcanal, American sailors and pilots successfully thwarted Japan's final attempt to destroy Henderson Field from the sea. This was the fork in the road, one Japanese commander observed. While fighting raged on the island, the Japanese evacuated their last troops and surrendered the island to the Allies in February 1943. The United States spent roughly 7,100 soldiers, 29 ships, and 615 aircraft on the Solomon Islands campaign. The Japanese suffered the loss of 31,000 soldiers, 38 ships, and 683 planes. U.S. forces conquered the Gilbert Islands, the Marshall Islands, the Mariana Islands, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa over the next 2.5 years. With each island captured from the Japanese, the U.S. moved closer to Japan. As the United States gained superiority at sea and in the air, as well as in the quantity of fighting personnel, it gained a growing advantage. Nonetheless, whenever U.S. forces encountered Japanese defenders, the enemy fought long and hard before succumbing.